couple random readings. We have A History of Experimental Psychology, the Century Psychology Series. Brown G. Edwin G. Boring. It's hard to see. Oh, there's a map in here. Universities of Central Europe. Political divisions shown as before the World War, 1914 to 18. Political divisions after the World War indicated by broken lines. Under the names of the cities are given the dates when the universities were founded. Willem Wundt. Professor of Psychology at Harvard. Copyright 1929. Printed in the United States. In 1886, page 381, The New Psychology, Epignos's Life. In 1886, Epignos was made Außerredakteur professor at Berlin. That's a hard word to say. He was made that kind of professor. Undoubtedly, his new fame aided his promotion. In this position, he remained at Berlin for 8 years. He did not continue his work on memory. He was original and an originator, but with the first task accomplished, he was content to let others, like Mueller, work out the method to the end. Excuse me. In the 80s, he published experiments upon brightness, contrast, and upon Weber's law applied to brightnesses. Then, in 1890, he founded with Arthur Coing the Zeitschrift für Psychologie and Psychologie der Synagogen. In England, Bain had founded Mind in 1876, but Great Britain was not to be the medium for the new psychology. Then, in 1881, Wundt had begun the Philosophicae Studien, which remained, however, primarily the organ of the Leipzig laboratory. Leipzig Leipzig Laboratory. In 1887, Stanley Hall had started the American Journal of Psychology, thus showing that America was not far behind Germany in the development of the new psychology. In this case, it was really ahead of the rest of the world because the American Journal of Psychology was not biased in the direction of any one school. Germany needed a general journal for its psychology, but by 1890 there was too much going on outside the sphere of Leipzig for once studien to suffice. So Epignos, with Cohen's aid, founded the Zeitschrift. Zeitschrift. He was able to enlist in this venture to help as cooperating editors of Helmholtz, of such psychological psychologists as Albert, Exner, Hering, von Chris, and Pryor, and of such psychologists as Theodor Lipps, who had just gone from Bonn to a full chair at Breslau, G.E. Mueller, and Stumpf. Thus, the Zeitschrift represented in a way of coalition of independence outside the Wundentian school. In the 90s, Epignos published his theory of color vision. On the whole, however, he had become a leader without much publication. Although his memory experiments must always remain an historical event, marked by unusual originality, Epignos's success in general must be ascribed to other factors than the significance and quality of his scientific publication. We may reasonably assume that it was for this reason that he was not promoted at Berlin and that Stumpf became in over him to the chair of philosophy in 1894. We have already repeated to the rumor that Helmholtz threw his influence against Wundt's call to Berlin. Berlin may have thought that Epignos lacked the caliber required by its chair, or it may have wanted for the chair of philosophy someone like Stumpf, who had less definitely reputed philosophy for psychology than had Epignos, or it may have simply have had to make its choice between two men of equal age and similar attainments and have chosen Stumpf. However, all this may be the fact that in 1894, a few months before Helmholtz's death, Stumpf came from Munich to the full chair at Berlin. Lipps went from Breslau to Stumpf's post at Munich, and Epignos moved into Lipp's chair at Berlin. Epignos remained at Berlin until 1905. He was still susceptible to new ideas. In 1897, he published a new method for testing mental capacity in school children, a study undertaken at the behest of the alderman of Breslau, who came to him with an inquiry about the distribution of the hours of study of the school children. This new method was what we now call the Epignos completion test, a method of mental testing that is utilized in a great many modern intelligence tests, and that is today one of the most successful mental tests for getting at the intellectual attainments of students in college courses. Binet had, of course, already begun his researches on the child mind, a fact which may account for Epignos's publishing a brief account of his work in French, but Binet's L'étude expérimentale de l'intelligence did not appear until 1903. A claim can certainly be made that Epignos originally penetrated the field of the higher processes, not only in respect of memory, but also in respect of intelligence, as the mental tests now test it. Very interesting. Page 658, Interpretation. It is now proper for us to ask ourselves the question, to what extent has the new psychology justified itself? There is a criterion of modern psychology, often spoken of and sometimes written, that the new science has not yet quite succeeded, that it has compared with its ambitions, relatively sterile, and that it is set out to study mind by the experimental method, and that it has gained a mass of knowledge about sensation, which a psychologist might have gained, a little else, and nothing of great moment about the rational mind, the personality, and human nature. This criticism, when expressed by philosophers, may be suspected of reflecting the disappointment of philosophers at the turn which the new psychology took, or even in their reaction to the negativism of psychologists toward philosophy. However, it is not at all impossible that psychology